Ladies and gentlemen, today is March 12th, 2013. And this is the KNKL Show, episode 74. I'm your host, Keenan Lafferty, and this is the place where we learn to be better artists. And we are going to be jumping right into our lovely tutorial, but first, we need to pull up the lovely lane. I can't believe I totally forgot to do that. What the heck is my problem? Okay, so while that is loading, I'm going to show you guys something very awesome that came in today. I have an important announcement to make. I just received the awesome golden button stickers that are going to be going on the prints. So you can see it right there. In fact, let me go ahead and pull up the auto zoom thingy and get nice and check out the details on that puppy. There you go. Nice golden buttons. That'll be going on the posters that I'm going to be printing and sending out as soon as I get the reprints done, because I got some in and they weren't to my quality standards. But when that happens, it should be soon. Those will go on sale, and then I can begin sending those out across the world, far and wide, for people who enjoy Emma to partake in. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on over to the Facebook. I can't even remember if there was anything new updated here. I think there was. Yes, since we last checked here, I think we got this in from Chris Muska. This one from Annie Walter, which is Maokai, and I love Maokai, so thank you very much, Annie, for sending that in. Thank you oh so much. And then Alexandre Lacour, who sent in this beautiful woman with shadows between her teeth, and therefore I owe him a blueberry waffle, fresh from the toaster, and shipped across the world. Alright guys, with all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the tutorial! Yes! So, today we're going to be, oh yeah, I didn't even talk about what the tutorial was. We're going to be expanding a little bit more on flow, which was on episode 72, I believe. And that was where I talked to you guys about creating a cool, like exaggerated motion, like with a like an exaggerated action pose with your character. And now we're going to be delving a little bit further into it, and I'm going to be talking about how to refine it once you've gotten to this stage. Okay? Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing you're going to want to do is, let's go ahead and fix up these backgrounds really quickly. And I just had the terrible thought that I did not turn on the mic, but we're okay. We're okay. Everything's okay. It's okay. Just breathe. Just breathe. We're good. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and reduce the opacity on this puppy a little bit. And basically what we're going to be doing is taking the old sketch. We're going to reduce that down, and we're going to begin going in and laying down the foundation. And we're going to be covering quite a few things, quite a few principles today, which will all come into play as you will see very shortly. We're going to be going through perspective, force perspective, laying foundations, and all that good stuff. But first, we gotta start with the beginning. We must lay a good foundation. Let's go ahead and reduce this down here. And so let's take a look at what we've got so far. I mean, we've got a good silhouette, we've got good action lines, and I feel like the character is really coming forward towards us. So the only thing we have left to do here is we've laid in the basic idea of what we want. Now we just need to clarify it, make sure we understand where all the body parts are, where everything is supposed to be. Making sure we communicate that we look like we know what we're doing. The most important thing to do as an artist. Always look like you know what you're doing. Alright, so let's go ahead and make a new layer. And let us begin. Let us begin the journey. Yes, I'm so happy about the golden buttons. So happy about golden buttons. Makes me oh so happy. Even though this isn't an Emma stream, so I mean, we're drawing Emma on the KNKL stream. But yeah, I didn't want to talk too much about Emma stuff, because I know some people just like to watch the tutorials and they don't want to hear about the comic. So I'll shut my mouth about that. But yeah, good things have been happening today. It's been a good day. Really been enjoying today. Been writing stuff down in my journal and doing more journal exploration research on myself, setting goals, attaining them. Small goals such as what I'm going to eat for breakfast and when I'm going to take my afternoon naps. But nonetheless, they are good goals. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is when we're laying in Emma's head is we want to make sure, obviously we start with a circle, and then we divide that circle in half. Simple, yes? Simple. Now, because her face is turning downward, we're going to draw in that ellipse, right? We're going to draw in the ellipse of how her head is turned. And remember, the ellipse, no matter how you draw it, will always meet the center of the circle, right? Like if you can continue the ellipse, it would go around like this, right? That's the center point of our circle. It will always meet here. And I always got confused by that because sometimes I'd be like, oh, where's the middle? I think it's like right there, and it'd be kind of off. So don't forget, your ellipses, if it's in the center of the circle, will always meet at the center point, center line. Okay? So let's go ahead and draw in the rest of Emma's head here. And let's decide very quickly if we want her shoulder to be in front of her face. Yes, it should be, because if she's swinging like this, or rather swinging like this, but then she's turned towards you, so, looks like her chin will just barely be touching her shoulder. So let's go ahead, and you notice that, like, this is kind of nice, like doing this, like I have the webcam, but like, notice how I'm taking note of the relation of my shoulder to my face. If I was to swing through, notice how my shoulder is much further out this way. So, because of that, I'm going to push Emma's shoulder more out like that, right? Yeah. And it looks like the forearm goes like that. Taking note of things, and if your hand is like that, cool. All right, you're probably going to be seeing me doing a lot of funny expressions, or funny positions today. All right, so let's just quickly lay that in. That looks good. That looks good. And immediately you can start to see a little bit more of that gesture coming through. That looks very good. Let's go ahead and lay in that neck, like that. Draw it right down into the back. Let's have that nice curvature of the stomach going into the hips. Keep in mind our ellipses that are happening there. And I want her torso to look like it's really twisting. So let's make sure to have her, if her shoulders are on this plane and her legs are on this plane, then that actually shows a very, very good amount of twist happening there. So let's go ahead and make sure we play that up and keep that, right? I'm talking about the line of her shoulder that's existing on this plane, and then her hips, as you can see, are existing on this plane. So there's a nice little country pasta being cooked up right there, and we love country pasta. I almost said the exact term. I almost said the proper term. That would be wrong. This is an art tutorial show. We talk about country pasta, not contrappasto, whatever it is. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and lay in the hips. Emma's hips. Then a cool way to help show like the depth that's happening there is have like this line overlap this one a little bit, you know? That way it shows clearly that this part of her torso is in front of her hips. Like that, right? And that by proxy, your eyes will read that and say, yes, indeed, that is happening. That is indeed in front of the hips. All right, so continuing, let's go ahead and erase this little guideline in here. I think today might be a little bit more about constructing. I'll probably title this Constructing Your Character on Top of Your Thumbnail. Constructing your character on top of your thumbnail, yeah, probably call it that. All right, so the basics of how I construct Emma's face is I usually draw her nose in like this, right? Usually kind of comes close to this line, if not a little bit lower. Actually, I think it's going to be a little bit lower because her head is tilted down. So her nose is probably going to be down like this. And then her mouth is going to be like that. All right. And then the way that her eyes are positioned is I follow basically the edges of that mouth up. Like think about the mouth when it's at rest. And I'll follow the mouth right on up to the eyes. That right? Well, let's actually go ahead and pull up the Emma emotions chart because I have a good one where she's like really angry. I think it should be this one here. Yeah, that one's good. Just to show kind of how her eyes kind of tilt down when she's kind of ticked off. So I'll go ahead and reference that as I'm drawing this here. All right. So one of the big things for Emma's eyes is they start just below the centery lips, right? Just below it. And they'll go down like that. And I kind of like, again, I tend to pay attention to the like guidelines that I laid in before, like with that really, really quick kind of messy thumbnail sketch. I believe that oftentimes I capture more emotion in that than I do when I really sit down and like try to draw something. It's kind of sad, but again, it's probably because you're trusting in your artist instinct, right? So always pay attention to those quick little sketches that you do, because there's often little tidbits, there's little fragments, diamonds in the rough, if you will, that are just waiting to be found. Let's go ahead and make her look nice and squinty. There we go. And let's bring this other eye up. Again, not forgetting the brow and slowly starting to erase our lines before, right? Her head's looking a little bit big. So what I'm going to do is kind of bring it in a little bit because her cheek is supposed to kind of go up like that. So I'm going to kind of bring this edge of her head in a tiny bit. Her noggin's looking a little large and in charge. So let's go ahead and fix that. All right, now the ear, there we go. She kind of has like simplistic elf ears. I wonder if people sometimes think that Emma's like an elf because she has like these pointy ears, but that's actually just supposed to be the style of the comic. It's simplified. She's not an elf. All right, again, drawing in the ellipse of where the top of her hair ends or top of her hair comes to, usually right around there. And the line of her eye, if you follow that straight up, that's how I connect the hair right there. Hey, learn something new every day. Let's go ahead and draw this right over like that. Draw that hair up. And let's draw this little thingy. Her little hair clippy. Very good, very good. All right, so I'm liking that. That's looking pretty dang good. It's kind of sculpting the face into what I want it to be, right? Drawing a couple of those little blush lines that she's got going on there. Helps add some intensity to her expression. We love intensity. We live for it. Let's have her looking up at us. Kind of generally ticked off looking. You know what's interesting is she's got like bigger pupils. She's got bigger pupils here. For some reason, I kind of like it. Yeah. I'll play around with that. Usually she's supposed to have like smaller pupils when she's like angry. For some reason, I kind of like this. Well, actually, let me reference the loading screen or the AFK screen. Yeah, that's how her pupils are supposed to look when she's ticked off. So I guess those are about the same. Those are about the same size as what we're doing here. So I think we are good. Good to continue. All right, so moving on. Another thing that I like to do is I'll thicken the eyelashes on her top eyelashes. Very, very anime thing to do. But I like it. So therefore, I do it. Making sure that the eyes are on the same kind of plane. Making sure that, you know, you want to kind of draw a line across here and make sure that these pupils kind of line up with each other. Because if they don't, then it's going to kind of make her eyes look kind of out of whack. little bit cross-eyed. We don't want that. Yeah, so our eyes should end right about there. Cool. All right, so I'm liking that. So I'm just kind of round those off a little bit. And let's flip the canvas really quickly just to take a look at our face, make sure that everything is looking pretty okay. It's looking passable at this point. Except for this eyebrow is much lower than this one. Kind of want to push that eyebrow down a little bit more then. Yeah, there we go. Make sure you have good consistency with your eyebrows as well. And she looks really ticked off. I like it. I like it. Okay, let's go ahead and bring this head in just a tad bit. She doesn't look quite so big-headed. And let's bring that up and bring that up. Cool. All right, let's continue with the hair. The hair should go down like this. And it should, since she's like flying kind of this way, we'll make it so that her hair is kind of like tucked against the side of her head here, or it's kind of tight against the edge. And let's not forget the shark fin. Do not forget the shark fin ever. That's her little piece of hair that just kind of goes off like that. Little sonic spike or whatever you want to call it. I like Sonic Spike. Sonic Spike is good too. All right. Let's go ahead and get that taken care of. And erase a little bit more of our guidelines. And sometimes I have like this problem where I make her head too big. I just make her head way too massively big. But luckily we have the power and the crutch of Photoshop to help us. To aid us, come to our aid. We can shrink that down as much as we see fit. In fact, I think I will go ahead and do that right now. Shrink yo head. Whoa, that didn't help. There we go. Take it down a notch. I actually kind of like that. I like the bigger forehead thing going on there. Emma is secretly part of a big race. The entire Emma world is actually all about the worker elves of Santa, right? She's an elf. That's the secret there. How would you draw elf Emma then? Yeah, you just make like bigger pointy ears. I guess that's what I would do. I just make her have bigger and pointier ears. Now also because she's kind of coming towards us now, I kind of want to push this hair further back. Like, I almost want this shoulder to be coming back like this and like have the edge of like the dress kind of there, right? And then this hair would probably be going back more this way, like back in this direction. So I'm probably just going to have this other hair kind of like hidden back here. And I'm probably going to take this hair and I'm going to push it back. Like so. Ooh, that looks pretty cool. That adds some intensity to it. Let's go ahead and allow that hair to go like that. Ooh, that looks pretty cool because now it looks like her head is kind of like turning as well. Looks like her head is kind of like rotating and her hair is like rotating that way. Looks really nice. Adding to our motion, and we like that. In fact, I wonder if I could just like draw a little bit of hair coming out this way. Yeah, I like that. Cool. Pointy shoulders. All right, so this is coming along quite well so far. Whack-Fu style ears. I didn't know Whack-Fu had those ears. That's pretty sweet. Balcony with a beach view. You guys think that's the beach? I wish. I wish I lived on the beach. No, this is my good friend's mother's place, and this is the guest room that is separate from the house. This is very nice. Although if her head was turning that way, I don't think we'd see the hair there. Might see the hair more like over this direction. Maybe just a tad bit over here like that. I don't know. Whatever, we'll deal with the hair later. Let us go ahead and move on to the hips and the legs. Yes? Yes. Let's go ahead and do that. And what time we got? 7:20. All right. Sweet. Plenty o' time. What's the rush? What's the rush? We're going to get there eventually anyway. All right. So a big thing that I like to do is, like I said, I usually start drawing like torsos with like an hourglass shape, right? So I'll think about this shape up here. Like here's basically what I'm thinking of. Her shoulders are existing on this edge here, right? And then her hips are going to basically, like if this is the center line, it's going to go down like that. And then her hips are going to be like that, right? So her shoulders going up like that, and then her hips are coming like that, right? And then her legs will be like that, right? So I like to think about this hourglass shape, which represents the shoulders and the hips of the woman. The woman. In fact, I'm going to keep that up because it's kind of good reference. Let's keep that right over there. Let's go ahead and draw in that hourglass shape. Again, we want to kind of play down a little bit of the like giant hips since she's a younger girl. But we want to make sure that we still have that nice shape. And she is flying at us, so that would mean that her dress is going to be kind of being pulled in this direction, like back in perspective. Like that, right? So that's the way that the wind is going to be pulling it. So her leg, one of her legs, will be also going back into perspective, right? And you want to think about it like this, right? Think about the ellipses of the leg that are going back in space, okay? And that's about right. Might be a little long. And I'm actually going to change her legs a little bit here. You're going to notice me change the legs slightly. I'm going to change it so that they're rotated a little bit more towards us. So basically rotating them like that. Okay, so her other leg is going to be like this, right? And then one foot is going to be like that. Not bad, not bad. I'm going to flip it just to take a look at it. Make sure that everything's looking good. Yes, I am liking that. And this other leg, I'm going to push it further back up towards us, like this, right? And this is going to be the one with the bandage on it. So notice what I'm doing here is I'm keeping the legs the same width here because they're starting in the same area. But notice how this knee is much bigger than this knee because this knee is coming up toward us and the ellipses are different, which is, you know, also doubling as the bandage that is going to be existing there, right? So that's very easy to remember. Let's go ahead and think about the leg as it goes from here, right? Think about the leg going back in space. So we'll have it be like that. So that looks okay. That looks all right. But do I like it? Is it good enough? Actually, her legs look kind of small. I don't know if I want them to be that small. So let's go ahead and take the lasso. Let's lasso that puppy. Make them a little bit bigger. Maybe it's not that they need to be bigger. Maybe they need to be a little longer. Yeah, I think they need to be a little longer. I think it was actually just fine the way it was. Like the size was fine. I think I just need to make these a little bit longer. Let's have this going here. Nice long legs. And remember, don't be afraid to play around with your shapes, right? The way that I kind of just sketch in circles and just play around with shapes. That's the secret. That's how you draw things in perspective. You see that? See how I basically drew that leg going back into space, but it's just a circle and then like that short little line and a little foot attached onto it. You know, you think about the heel being another circle. You know, so that's basically how I construct my figures, right? And then let me see, what am I, okay, so that leg looks better now, but this leg is still not right. I think this leg needs to be a tad bit longer too. And I also think it needs to be going back in space a little bit more. So I kind of want to push it back like this. Let's try pushing it back like that. Let's see what happens. Is that something that I'm going to want? Yeah, that actually looks kind of cool. It gives us a nice like straight line of action, and I kind of like that. But I'm curious as to if that would look better if it was slightly bent. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's warp it and bend it slightly. Oh yeah, that looks way better. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Booyah! All right, so we got the nice legs in there. We got Emma's cute little legs, little leggies. And let's go ahead and lay in. Okay, so that's where the knee is, right? And then the boot is going to be existing in this area. And generally, I like to make her boots kind of have like a shape of where they're really, really kind of bigger at the bottom, and then they kind of reach a thin point at the top. I like the way that looks. That tends to look. But because these are in perspective, that effect might be slightly reduced. And again, just pay attention to how I'm just working with shapes. I'm not worrying about anatomy yet. I'm not worrying about, okay, here's all the little tendons and stuff that go through here, and here's the knee. You know, I'm not worrying about all of these things yet. All I'm doing is I'm just working with shapes, right? And that's all you should be doing. Let's go ahead and just draw in the edge of her skirt here, or the edge of her dress. Let me grab her reference here. See exactly how far it comes down. There we go. Yes, even after drawing this character 100 times, I still need to look at the reference. Because it always helps. It always helps to have a good, consistent character. This leg might be a little bit long, too. Let's go ahead and scoot that up. You want to think about if she placed this leg, if she put it down and in perspective, you want to think about if those two knees would meet each other. If this knee would meet that knee if she dropped it down and it was like there. And I think it would. So I think we're good there. Let's go ahead and draw her cute little skirt and cute little dress. Okay, so she's got like this little tear that goes down like this. And because her other leg is raised, we're going to bring this end of the skirt up, right? So it's going to create a shape like this. So it's going to have like a pinching point here, and then it's going to go straight down like that. It's going to kind of collect. The fabric is going to collect itself down in that region there. And let's go ahead and throw in that bandage there because it comes down just a little bit further. I drew it kind of far up, that earlier stage. Okay, so that's pretty good. Very good. There we go. Releasing that outline there. Let's also think about like the as she's turning her torso, like the folds of the shirt are going to go that way too, right? There's going to be like pinching points happening in this area. So there's going to be like this nice curve happening here. And then let's draw this leg up like that. And then I'm really going to kind of kick out the back area here. I'm really going to kind of push it out. In fact, I'm probably going to exaggerate this even more by grabbing the entire torso and rotate it and then move it up. And that should give us an even better illusion of what is happening there. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's take a look at what we got. Flip it around. Yeah. It's looking okay. It's looking a little flat though. And this may be a problem that you run into, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why she's looking flat right here. It's because of this fold right here. See that fold? The way it's kind of like connecting with all of the fabric here, it makes it look like she doesn't have any like hips. It makes it look like she doesn't have any like depth to her figure there. So let's go ahead and erase this, and let's go back in here and make sure that we are achieving the proper amount of depth in her figure. Figure out ways that we can make sure that that is coming through. Okay, so we know that we have this shape happening here, right? Like this whole shape within here. Like we had x-ray eyes, we'd be able to see right on down into here, and then this would be her waist, and then her hips are going to come out like this, right? In fact, wait, no. The center point is actually going to be almost equal with that, right? So this is going to be more like this. There's going to be a turn here, and the center line of the hip is going to be right around there, right around there. Then we're going to get more like that shape, okay? So now let's make sure that we have the lines. Let's kind of reinforce this shape with our folds. And then we'll have these folds happening right there. Now let's go ahead and erase a few of the guides and see how that looks. What does that do for us? Should be the question of the day. Factor bandage needs to come way further down. It's almost touching her knee. And these other ones. Let's go ahead and throw in a shadow here. There we go. That's looking better. Now it looks like she has a little bit more depth in her body. Just because we replaced those folds. All right. Good. Much better, much better. All right, so second boot, let's go ahead and lay that in. Yeah, it's good. Booties, gotta love the booties. Emma's booties. And also, let's compare these two shapes here because these should be, technically this boot should be bigger than that one since it's closer to us. So let's go ahead and grab that and increase its size. And increase its size. Cool. All right. Alright, that's good. I think generally what I'm trying to do here is I want to have like a good like S shape kind of occurring through here. Like with her hips kind of down, and then her like as she swings, right, her chest is kind of like out a little bit more, right? So I really want to like emphasize like this shape that's happening. I want to like actually push this whole thing up. In fact, I might just go ahead and do that. Maybe shrink her head down a little bit. Head's looking a little big. Now it looks a little too rotated. Actually, her head might not be that much bigger than it needs to be. Actually be pretty close to what it should be. Yeah, it just needs to be a little bit smaller. I don't know, maybe I'm just being anal. Maybe I'm just being crazy. But that's what I'm good at. Alright, so one more thing that I'm going to do here is I'm liking this shape here, right? Like this. However, this boot, I feel, is way too large. It's way too far out. This boot should be more like that. Shorten it so it's going further back in perspective, and then erase a couple of those lines. Just pay attention. The biggest thing that I'm paying attention to is actually just the outer lines. Like I'm just kind of tracing this with my mind, just looking at all the outer lines, because most of the time the silhouette is going to give you more of the action than anything else in the character. More than all like the little like nitty-gritty things of like all the folds in the skirt and all that stuff. Those will give you things such as like depth and kind of communication in that area. But as far as, you know, the actual like action that's being performed, you want to really, really watch your silhouette, and that's just your outside lines, which actually makes things a lot more simple. Makes things a lot more simple and easy to concentrate on. All right. So one more thing I do want to do is I want to play a little bit more with this whole shape here. And whenever I do this, I like to go ahead and duplicate the layer. That way I make like a terrible mistake and I need to go back. Because I like what's happening all throughout here, right? I like what's happening all throughout here, but I feel like I want to have the chest a little bit more further out. So I want to like bring her head in a little bit, and I want to push her shoulder up a little bit more. So her shoulder is going to be even more pushed to the side, right, like this. All right, and then her back is going to be like that. Let's see how I like that. Nah. Yeah, I think I like that one more. So I think what I need to do is, let's go ahead and duplicate this once again. And my second thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to see what would happen if I brought this shoulder and just this whole area of the torso down a bit. Kind of pushed it out a little bit more. Ooh, that looks really cool. Yeah, that's what I wanted right there. Yeah, there we go. That's giving me a nice S shape, S curve. Okay, so that's looking pretty good from right there. Let's go ahead and flip it, make sure everything is still looking according to plan. Looks pretty good. I feel like her legs are actually a little bit too far down now. So let's go ahead and move those up. Slight changes and using Photoshop to your advantage. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right. So I am personally really liking this. Really enjoying this. How much time we got? 7:40. We got about 15 more minutes, and then we will take any questions that you have regarding flow, all that stuff. Oh, actually, no. On KNKL shows, I like to take an extra 10 minutes for questions. So we'll go for another, we'll end at 7:50, and then I'll open the floodgates to your question catapults, and you can ask me any questions you wish about life, art, women. I don't care what it is. But rest assured, you can send them my way. And you can expect to get them sent back to you on a bed of floaty grass. There's something about this I like a lot. All right, so because you got like the shoulder like really coming out far, like that looks really cool. Just this whole area right here. And then I like to think that her torso is kind of like doing one of these things. It's almost like going in and then back out. So I need to do this. I need to do that, or is that going to look painful? Is it going to look like she has a broken back? Yeah, that looks really bad. Nope. That's not the answer. But hey, that's the good thing about doing your experiments. Figure out what doesn't work. Figure out what works as well as what doesn't work. Sometimes that can be just as powerful. Figuring out what doesn't work. All right, so let's think about the arm here. These these arms are actually going to be brought in a little ways. So let's go ahead and select this entire axe. Let's move it in order to have her arms not be freakishly long. We'll have it ending right there. Okay. And then something that I really like to do when I'm like painting hands and stuff, like if I want them to look really realistic, I'll actually like see if I can get myself like a reference of myself like holding something, right? And especially like in the perspective, you know, it's like how does somebody hold, you know, like a dagger like this, right? You notice how like your arm kind of straightens out and your thumb kind of lines right into the edge of it, points straight out, and then your hand kind of like buckles and kind of turns this way. I always think that that's really cool. So usually I do that. But for this, I think the most important thing to consider is the ellipse that's happening, right? Think about the ellipse that's happening within this axe handle, okay? So draw it right back like this, and think about the ellipses that are going through it, right? If you were to basically cut this axe in half at any point, what would it look like on the inside? And that will tell you what the perspective is doing and how you have to line up your hands basically to accommodate it. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this forefinger like that, and then as it comes back, it should actually have a better grip on it, right? I really like the way that this hand looks, even though it's just like a really simple gesture. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that so you can see. So you got like this here, and you got this edge of the wrist. I just think that looks really nice. Really nailed that. And then that looks like that. And oftentimes you'll start to learn how you can draw hands really quickly, just with like shapes. And especially in comic books, like I like making the style in such a way that I can draw it really quickly and fairly easily. I think I've cultivated a style that allows me to do that. Cultivate! Ah. Yeah. Yes! All right. So there's still a couple things like with her legs that I'm just not liking. You know, and this is always healthy to do, right? It's always healthy to question. It's like, did I do that right? So sometimes I'll actually just delete this. I'll compare it to the old one. I was like, is there something that's happening here that's not happening in the new one? Actually, yeah, I think there is. I think there's something that's actually stronger about these original legs. But what is it? What is it that looks better? I'm not sure. But let's go ahead and just draw in those shapes really quickly. Now you got those other legs saved, you know, in case we want to go back. I'm just going to go ahead and draw these in really quick. All that work for nothing? No. Not for nothing. For learning. For science! I think what I like is just a little bit more of the simplicity that was happening here. Like, I didn't worry too much about all of the little folds and stuff. I think her legs looked a little better too. The original shapes of the legs looked a little better. Okay. And I'm just going to draw in these shapes really quick, okay? Yeah, there's something about those that I like more. I think there's maybe I can see a little bit more of her waist, so it just like helps communicate what's happening there. I do, however, like this, that this is happening right here. This edge. And I guess that's the most important thing to remember is just make sure, like oftentimes one of my faults is I end up losing a little bit of like the character's waist in my drawings. So I always like try to make sure to go back and if anything, just communicate where that waist is happening, where the torso is, where the waist is, and then make them look nice and properly shaped. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, just with those shapes, I think I like those more. I like those more than that. It's just, it feels more graphic too. You see like that right there? Sometimes this is something that will happen too, is you'll forget like the genius of your original sketch, right? Because see like this kind of goes like that and kind of in and then out, right? And that's kind of cool, but it has nowhere near the amount of punch that that has, right? Or it's just like, bam, straight out like that. It goes straight out and then in and out. And that's like really cool, really graphic and awesome looking. So don't be afraid to go back. Don't be afraid of just drawing something and being like, no, don't like it. I do not accept, right? You are the king or the queen of your castle, and you decide what goes and what doesn't. And I decree that those old legs will be banished from the kingdom. Those old legs will be banished to the island of unused legs. I can imagine that. This is like one of those deserted islands with a little palm tree on there. There's just like a pair of legs there. Pair of legs there. Forever. Well, it wouldn't be forever alone, though, because there's tons of discarded legs that I send there. So it would have friends. It would have plenty of friends to play with. They could even start their own deserted legs civilization if they wanted. All right, I'm going to bring in this eye just a little bit because I try not to make the eyes like get sucked all the way over to the ear because it looks kind of weird. So I'm going to kind of just pay attention to this. I think this whole eye just needs to move over a tiny bit. Yeah, there we go. And this eye looks good. Yeah, try to avoid the eye getting sucked to the side of the face. Pitfall. Also, is she turning her head too much? If you're turning your head like this, no, you can turn your head that much easily. Although I think her head, like, it can't be like pushed in like that. I think it needs to come up a tiny bit. So I think it might be looking a little bit more like that. Nope. Never mind. Sticking with the original. Because I like it. Just trying little things here and there, seeing if we can improve what we have, or if what we got is working for us. Save our socks. The island of misfit legs. Alright. Alright, peoples! I'm going to open up the floodgates to your questions as I continue doing this sketch. Please feel free to go to the chat to your right and enter your questions, whatever you wish, and I will pick them up and I'll answer them for you. And then we will end episode 73 of the KNKL show. We will continue our week as planned. I'll show you guys another little trick that I like to do as I'm refining sketches. I really like the way this axe turned out. Probably just going to keep that almost exactly as it was. Alright, so I'll show you something that I like to do now. I like to basically take all of those lines that I did on their own layer and I'll just kind of darken them down. Darken them into straight up black. Then I'll kind of take the picture sometimes and kind of warp it a little bit. See if there's like little adjustments that I can make. I definitely don't want to do that. I think what I'm going for is more that type of action, right? I want like this curve to be happening through her body. So I think the more that I can get that, I think the better. So yeah, just from that to that, you can see there's a lot more force in that. Like her back is really like pushed out. It looks really nice. So the way you do that is you hit Control T and then you just go to warp. And that's like a trick that we would use all the time in like drawing splashes. We'd all the time just like warp our drawings and just kind of get like a good flow going. Usually I like to be able to create a nice flow without using the warp tool. But you know, in professional work, you just gotta get it done. Get her done. She looks like I had a little mustache. That's funny. Little Emma stash. In fact, I'm gonna reposition her nose. It should be a little bit more like that. Cool. Brian Hogan asks, burritos or tacos? That is tough. Okay, if I'm making them, oh man, I make good tacos too. I like burritos because you can make them faster. However, tacos take a little bit more preparation, but they are oh so worth the extra work. So if I had time to make tacos all the time, I would choose tacos because I make some of the best tacos ever. And they're fairly healthy because they're turkey tacos. Yummy, yummy turkey tacos. still not fully liking this face. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about this face, but I don't like it that much. All right. Julian Brocker asks, what should I, as becoming an artist, draw? Or as a becoming artist, draw? Fan art? Oh, this actually brings up something that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Yes, I do believe a great way to begin getting exposure, and this is the way that I did it in the beginning, was doing fan art. Draw stuff that you like, aka fan art, right? If you like Metal Slug, draw Metal Slug. Don't worry about, the fact that Metal Slug is a really kind of old game and nobody really knows about it. If you like it and you get excited about it, then draw it. And you'll find other people that are interested in those things, and you'll start to gain exposure just by doing fan art. If you do good fan art, it's going to get noticed. And this brings me to another interesting and important thing that I wanted to tell you guys, and that is the importance of, I'm going to actually switch to the other cam for this. It is the importance of entering contests, right? Even I do this at after I've worked at Riot, worked as a professional, I still like to enter contests. There's always contests that you can be entering, throughout all of, no matter what skill level you're at, right? And the reason why I like doing this is because the spirit of the competition and the idea that basically you got to put your best foot forward really, really motivates you to learn a bunch of stuff that you didn't before. And this has always been the case with contests with me. And then here's the cool part, is that no matter what happens, I mean, obviously you're competing to win a prize, hopefully, right? But even if you don't get the prize, I hope that you guys notice that the amount that you had to stretch yourself and push the envelope basically to enter that contest is a prize in itself, because you've learned so much and you've really kind of pushed yourself to the limit. And you've really taken a giant leap in terms of increasing your skill. So I think that entering contests is probably one of the biggest ways for you yourself to grow as an artist and just have a lot of fun with the competition. And yeah, it'll also give you great exposure if you win it. So yes, and I don't care what you're doing, no matter what skill level you are, you should always be entering contests. There's always contests for you to find. There's always cool little contests, or like charity events, or anything that just allows you to push your artistic levels. All right. Hey, Salamine is asking, have you ever tried any other programs besides Photoshop? I have not, actually. Besides Illustrator? No, I have not tried anything besides Photoshop. I really, really like Photoshop a lot. And I feel like it does everything that I need it to. However, I have really wanted to try Painter, because it simulates the physical media and stuff like that. You can get some really cool texture out of that. But up till this point, I have not tried anything else. All right, 2 more questions. And then we are out. Julian Brocker is also asking, what burger do you recommend from Burger King? None. I don't like Burger King ever since they took out the Big Buckin' Chicken, whatever that was, the spicy chicken sandwich. I loved that. Oh, it was my favorite sandwich ever. I would go to Burger King. I would travel far across distant lands just to get my Big Buckin' Chicken sandwich. And then they took it away from me. They took it away from me. And that is a sin that I can never forgive. So until they bring that back, I can't recommend that you even partake in their food. So, all right. Last question. Oh, Poizu, with a cute little icon over there, is asking, do you have any good remedies for art blocks? Yes, I was actually talking about this yesterday, Poizu. And a good thing that I found that actually helps me, strangely, is writing down your goals artistically, what you are going to do, what you want to accomplish within the next half an hour or hour. Write it down on a piece of paper, or if you have a little journal or a diary, get a little book that you can write down your little short-term goals in. Because oftentimes what I find myself doing is I'll be working on the comic, and I'll get stuck. I'll just be like, oh, okay, what do I do here? And I'll just kind of like aimlessly like keep going, kind of slowly. But what happens is when I write it down in a book, it's like, okay, this time I'm doing this, and then when I finish it, I'll write down, 3:30, finish this, and then you write down the next step. What's the next step you're gonna do? Oh, I'm gonna lay in the masks for this page. I'm going to drop in the values for the background of this page, right? So that way you kind of break it down into little chunks. And if you can do this mentally, that's great. But for me, it really, really helps to be able to write it down on a piece of paper. And then what's really fun is you can actually review it at the end of the day and be like, oh, hey, this is really cool. It looks like I got a lot of stuff done today. And you can even take a look back at the work that you've done that day and been like, whoa, I've never gotten this much work done ever. And it's because you break it down into little bite-sized chunks and you check up with yourself, right? So you don't allow yourself to be like, if you get distracted and look at YouTube videos for hours, then you have to go back in here and be like, oh, well, I got sidetracked by YouTube and wrote this down. You really don't want to do that. It's actually really hard to write that down. In fact, I would rather almost not write it down, which is why I keep myself a lot more focused and avoid getting distracted and kind of being art blocked by writing stuff down, right? Because it keeps me committed and I know exactly what I should be doing. And usually I kind of break it down into, half an hour to hour chunks. And this is something that I wish I would have been doing back when I was working at Riot, because all the time, I'd just kind of go through the day and, whatever I got done, I'd get done. But I didn't make those short-term goals, and I feel like I could have improved my working habits and my workflow and efficiency if I would have had something like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end episode 73 of the KNKL show. Thank you guys once again for tuning in live as I pull up iTunes. Thank you guys once again for tuning in live and joining me on Ustream. It is always a pleasure to have you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow. We're going to be continuing working on the Emma comic book. Until then, you guys take care of yourselves. Have a great evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.